Hello everyone and welcome to the round 5 and round 6 recap of Hart House Reading Week Open. It's a huge day for me. I'm leading the tournament, beating Grandmaster Razvan Priyotu in round 4 with a 3.5 out of 4 points, but more importantly, aside from the tournament situation, I'm currently at 2284 FIDE live rating, so I'm actually very close to clinching the FIDE Master title if I can perform well today. So going into today, which consists of 2 games that I will cover in this video, I was thinking if I can win this game against International Master Nikolai Noritsyn, I will be at 2299 live rating, and then with just a draw in the last round, I will clinch the FM title and probably will win the tournament. So this one game was gigantic for me. It was huge with the white pieces against a high-rated player. It was an amazing chance for me, being in a great form, great mental situation to actually try and get closer to my goal. There's a little bit of a backstory about Nikolai Noritsyn. So first of all, he's a very strong player. He's a former Canadian champion at least 2 times. He won the Canadian Championship in 2023, and he's been one of the most remarkable, notable, famous players in Canadian chess scene, played for national team many times. That one thing being said, he's also have always been my nemesis when I'm in an amazing form. Like, I lose to many people in Canadian chess when I'm in a bad form, but when I'm in good form, I'm actually very difficult to beat. But just to give you a funny story, I played in the Canadian Zonals, which is the most important Canadian chess tournament. And I started that tournament on fire. I won the first round against a very strong national master. And then the second round, I beat Razvan again, with the white pieces that time. And then the third round, I played top seed of the tournament, Grandmaster Jean-Rodrigue Lemieux, and I actually drew that game from basically a position of strength. In a better position, I agreed to a draw. And in round 4, I faced Nikolay with the white pieces in that tournament, and he beat me very convincingly, and that kind of tilted me to get only half a point out of the next 3 games. And I completely was out of the conversation for Canadian Zonals after those rounds. So Nikolai is always good at beating me when I'm in a great form. Anyways, so I was trying to prepare for this game. I knew against e4 he usually plays the French and the Sicilian. I was even considering going d4 and seeing what he does there, but then the previous day he played a very nice positional game against the current Canadian champion, Shyam Tavandiran, with the black pieces against d4, and I was kind of scared to go into those structures knowing that he has a lot of experience and probably can outplay me. So I decided on e4, and honestly I'm very confident in my prep against the Sicilian. But I was not so confident with my prep against the French, which is his second choice. So I actually spent most of the time preparing against the French, and I actually prepared something completely new that I never played, but I made sure that I know all the lines and I'm able to remember most of them. So I played e4 in the game, and he played the Sicilian. And my goal, in case he plays the Sicilian, was that I will stick with what I know the best. I will play the Alapin, and I will ask him to show which line he has prepared. So I played the Alapin. He played knight f6. I played e5, knight to d5, and now knight to f3. So now there are 3 main moves in this position. There's e6, there's d6, and there's knight to c6. And all of them have been played against me in multiple different games. So our game in the zonals, Nikolai played d6, and I actually got a decent position out of the opening, but I messed up the prep very early on, like just out of preparation. I messed up one of the moves, and he was able to get a slight advantage when my position was incredibly uncomfortable. I actually ended up losing that game. But I tried to repeat the same line. I played bishop b5 check, plays bishop d7, and now bishop c4. So you might ask, what's the point of playing bishop b5 check, provoking bishop d7, and now going back bishop to c4? It's actually much rarer than the actual like bishop c4 right away. But the idea of bishop b5 and then bishop c4 is that it kind of stops knight to b6. The thing is, if he goes knight e6, I have this nice idea of taking on f7 with check. He has to take with a king, and now I play e6 check, forking the king and a bishop. And when he takes with a bishop, I'm going to give this check on g5, attacking the king and the bishop. And now if he goes back to g8, I'm just going to take the bishop, and I'm going to be slightly better in this position because of the weak e6 square and the weak position of the king on g8. The rook on h8 is a little bit unhappy. And if he goes king f6 and tries to go for an adventure, I go queen f3 check, and bishop f5 is still possible. Black is in the game, but if he tries to like really go on an adventure by taking the knight, then there comes a forced checkmate. h4, king g6, h5, king h6. Now, there's a very funny mate in 3. You can pause the video and try to find it. I go queen e3 check, g5, queen takes e6, king g7, and now I checkmate with a pawn on h6. Of course, this is not going to happen against a player of Nikolay's caliber, but I just wanted to show one of the ideas behind provoking bishop to d7, as opposed to going bishop c4 right away. There's also this other point that with a bishop on d7, now the queen can't defend the knight, so Black doesn't have the option of taking on e5 as well, and the knight on d5 is going to hand. So e6 was played by Nikolay, consolidating the knight, and now I go d4. So in our game, the zonals, Nikolay played bishop c6, and we had a very interesting game where he was able to completely outplay me and win the game. I kind of didn't play a good game in that round. But this time, Nikolay played d takes e5. And I wonder whether he had some preparation in this line, because he probably knew that I'm going to play the Alapin, but he was kind of playing slowly. So I'm not sure about that. Maybe he just decided to play this line over the board. I took on e5 with a knight. He played knight c6. I take the bishop. Queen takes d7. And now he's threatening to take on d4 and isolate my d4 pawn. So I take on c5. Bishop takes c5. Now I castle. So a very funny thing is that so far we are following only one game in the Masters database. And that one game is exactly my win against Grandmaster Razvan Priyotu in Canadian Zonals. So going into this line, I was kind of confident. I was like, well, I beat Razvan in this line. Why not do it again? Because actually, after that game, I analyzed this position in more detail as well, and I learned some new ideas. So I knew how pieces go to certain squares in general and what are the common plans. But the problem with this position is that it's also very equal. Like, white doesn't have any advantage, honestly. So white has the bishop pair, but black has a lot of piece activity. And usually in these structures with 3-3 versus 4-2, black, whoever controls the d file is going to have a little bit of an advantage, and it's easier for black to do that. So Nikolay castles, I put my queen on e2, and now he plays rook f to d8. So now comes another challenge. If I want to develop my knight to d2, he's going to go knight f4 or knight e3 and snag back the bishop pair. So I knew that this idea exists to play this move g3. It might look a little bit weakening to my king, but given the fact that he doesn't have a light squared bishop to exploit these light squared weaknesses, it's actually a very good move in this structure. So I stop knight to f4, and next I'm trying to bring my knight to e4 or f3 and just complete my development. My pieces are still not so happy yet. So Nikolay played a6, I played knight to d2, and now he played h6. So I wasn't sure about the exact idea behind these two moves, but I guess both of these moves are improving moves in the position without creating any weakness. Like, I remember, for instance, in my game against Razvan in the zonals, I put my queen on c2, and I was able to cause a lot of problems with playing knight e4, knight g5. So like a move like h6 in the very long run can be a good prophylaxis move. A move like a6 in the long run can possibly prepare a b5, b4 idea. So here, I was a little bit worried in the long run that he goes knight to a5 and attack my bishop. If he does that, of course, right now there's bishop takes and b4. Like, it's not like an instant threat. But let's say I don't have that idea. Then if I go here, there's tactics on the d file. And if I go back then I'm going to lose the bishop pair. So I played bishop to b3, and my idea was to always meet knight a5 with bishop c2 and preserve my unmatched light squared bishop. So Nikolai played queen to c7, again another improving move, preparing some e5 and opening up the rook. I developed my knight to f3, and now he plays rook to e8. So when he played this move, I clearly understood his idea. He puts his rook on e8, and he wants to support the advance of the e-pawn with e5 and e4. So I simply developed my bishop. That was the last part, because I wanted my rook into the game as well. And now he plays a very nice move, knight to f6. So the idea with knight f6 is that he wants to go e5. If he goes e5 now, I'm going to take the knight. When he goes knight f6, now e5, e4 is a major threat in this position. So I knew that that's coming, but I kind of didn't know what exactly to do against it. So first of all, one candidate move was to go rook a e1. But if I go rook a e1, then this rook is not so happy on f1. And if I go rook f e1, then I'm always having problems with the pawn on f2. For instance, he can go knight g4, and then I have to come back. So I decided to play rook a to d1. Now he plays e5. I knew that was coming. Now, this diagonal is getting a little bit annoying. This bishop is honestly putting a lot of pressure on my king, so I decided to play bishop to e3. So far the position is roughly equal. And I was kind of happy to see e5 in a sense that I felt like it really makes this bishop strong. So I was already considering ideas like bring the knight here or bring the knight even here. I know it doesn't do anything, but they were just rough ideas in my mind. And here he played a move which kind of shocked me, but I think it was a very interesting idea. Like, I didn't expect this move in the game. He played bishop back to f8. So I thought he will be happy to probably trade off my bishop, because now I'm not going to have the bishop pair advantage anymore. There's also e4 that I thought is a very interesting idea. But against e4, I need to go knight to d2. That's a very important point that further in the game it also becomes very relevant. So if I go knight d2, I can put a lot of pressure on this e4 pawn. For instance, let's say he takes and I take back. Let's say he goes knight a5, attacking my bishop. I don't really care about preserving this bishop. I'm going to go rook f to e1, putting more pressure on the e4 pawn. And the thing with him is that I don't think he's going to lose this pawn. Let's say he plays rook here. I drop the queen back, takes, just sample line. He's not going to lose this pawn. He has enough protection, but he also doesn't have a good way to make progress, because now the knight and the rook are tied down to the defense of the pawn. If he moves the knight away, there's always possibilities for me to take. Of course, I got to be careful of f5, but of course, there's a lot of concrete stuff to discuss. But the point is, he's kind of stuck defending the pawn, and I'm kind of stuck attacking the pawn, but both sides are going to struggle to really create something. Nikolai plays bishop f8, and now I'm actually slightly better. I go a4. The idea with a4 was that I was kind of happy to have this bishop in the diagonal, and I didn't want to drop back to c2 in case of him playing knight a5. So if knight a5, I was worried I'm going to go bishop c2, then he's going to go knight c4, attack my bishop and the pawn, and I wasn't happy with that. So I played a4 with the idea of meeting knight a5 with bishop to a2. So now Nikolai plays e4, and now here I made a huge inaccuracy that I think was the start of me getting into a tough position. But so far, the position is normal, like both sides have their own advantages, and I'm up a lot of time on the clock as well. But here I decided to play knight to d4, which looks very natural. Of course, like naturally you want to put your knight in a very active square like d4. Like your opponent just played e4, weakened the d4 square, you put your knight here, and it looks great. But again, as I mentioned, I had to keep the pressure on the e4 pawn. That was a huge moment. So knight d2 was the best move in this position. So now if he goes knight e5, for instance, trying to attack my king, I'm going to play, knight e5, bishop c2. And now the pawn is in a huge trouble. Let's say it goes queen to c6, I go bishop to d4. And all of a sudden, it's actually not so easy for him to defend the pawn. And let's say even he goes here and we trade the knights, now my two bishops are going to be super strong. So white is actually much better here. And his best move is actually to play something like queen to c8, trying to create some mating threats with queen h3, knight g4. So I go king g2, stop queen h3, and then he goes queen f5, and then consolidate the e4 pawn. We're going to go something like this, and rook e1. And again, my idea revolves around putting so much pressure on the e4 pawn. And we're going to have a very nice balanced game where all three results are possible here. But I played knight d4, but now after knight e5, I start to feel a little bit of a pressure. It was like, now the pawn on e4 is very strong. I can't do anything about it. And if I ever move this knight away, then the knight is going to come to f3, and then I'm going to face a lot of issues. He even has the idea of going bishop c5, trading the bishop, and then sticking the knight on f3. So I was like, I should get rid of this knight. I played bishop f4, rook a c8, king g2. So I can always take this knight. Right now, I don't have to rush with it because it's pinned. He plays queen to b6, and here I took the knight because I was always worried that my knight is stuck on d4, defending f3, and if I don't do that, he's going to go something like this, and then put the knight on f3, and bad things might happen. So I took the knight. It's a slight inaccuracy. It was better to go maybe bishop e3, and then try to reroute this bishop back to b1. Again, the same idea of putting a lot of pressure on the e4 pawn. I never did that in the game. So I played bishop takes e5, rook takes e5 happened, and now I played bishop to a2, sidestepping from the attack of the queen. Nikolai plays a very nice move in this position, very nice positional idea. You can pause the video and think. Nikolai plays h5. His idea with h5 is that right now, black is slightly better, but white doesn't have any weaknesses on the king side. Like, all my pawns are pretty sound, and it's very difficult to generate something in this position. With h5, his idea is to create weaknesses in my camps. And if he goes h4 and trades on g3, all of a sudden, the g3 pawn is a little bit loose with some e3 coming, then the h file is going to be open, and there's going to be resources for him in this position. So I played rook d2, and here Nikolai makes a slight inaccuracy. He plays rook c to e8. What he should have done was to just go rook c7 to defend the f7 pawn and stop my queen from coming to c4. When he did that, now I have this nice move queen to c4, attacking the pawn on f7. Now when he goes rook 8 to e7, this bishop on f8 is a little bit bad. But of course it can come to the game from here, but it would have been better to put the rook on c7 at this point. So here was a huge moment for me. Again, it's a very interesting positional moment. You can pause the video and think about white's idea. So white's best move in this position is to play knight to c2, to put this knight on e3 and blockade this e-pawn, and also like stop ideas like knight g4. So I saw this idea, obviously, but for some reason, I don't know, like this is pretty easy to see, honestly. Like, for some reason, I was scared of my b2 pawn hanging. And I don't know why, but I was kind of scared of that. Simply, if he takes on b2, rook b1 just traps the queen, and I win the game. And if he goes g6, then I'm going to put the knight on e3, and this time I actually have enough time to generate something against him. Let's say he goes bishop h6, I'm going to go queen to c8, and then knight to c4, forking the queen and the rook. And then he has to like kind of bail out by trading the queens, and now we're going to have a pretty equal endgame. Of course, this is still playable for both sides, but I would have been happy to get such a position. So in the game, first of all, I wasted a little bit of time with rook e1. I was kind of stopping e3, but I don't think that move is really necessary in this position. Like, it's an improving move, but it's very slow. And Nikolai doesn't take advantage of it, actually. So he plays g6, which is another inaccuracy by him. But the line that he had to see was insanely difficult. So the line that computer suggests here is to play h4. So now I will go with my plan, knight c2, trying to put the knight on e3. And looks like white is consolidating here. But Nikolai has this insane idea of playing h3 check. Of course, if I just drop the king back, my light squares are super weak. If I take, he has the magnificent knight to g4, sacrificing the knight, and now I'm completely lost. Like, I kind of have to take this knight, because if I go here, then queen h6 comes, and the rook and the h2 pawn are both hanging. If I take the knight, then again queen h6, and mate is threatened on h5, and the rook is hanging, so I'm dead lost. But of course, seeing this in a real game is not easy. Like, I doubt any player, maybe like 2700 plus GMs can see it, but I doubt any player lower than that level is able to see it with 20 minutes on the clock. Maybe they do. Anyways, he played g6, very natural move. He wants to put the bishop on h6. And now again, I was kind of worried of this pawn hanging for no reason, but the queen is just trapped. I don't know why I was worried of that. For some reason, I thought provoking the queen back to c7 and then playing knight c2 is a very good idea in this position. What I should have done was to play knight c2. But then after bishop h6, I have to find a very insane idea, and that's queen to b4. So my rook is hanging, but he can't take it because his own queen is hanging. And if he takes my queen, now I have this very nice intermezzo rook to d8 check, and now knight takes b4. And again, if I can trade queens, now my king is pretty safe, and now we're going to have an equal endgame, which is still playable, but I would be really happy to get such a position. I played queen b3, but now after queen c7, knight c2, this time after bishop h6, I don't have enough resources to actually generate something. Like, I don't have queen b4 keeping this bishop open. Now my pieces are kind of stuck on the other side of the board. I played rook d2, putting pressure on this e4 pawn. Again, a little bit of a passive move. I should have played rook to d4, and then after h4, try something like queen c4. Again, some active defending. Bring this queen back into defending my king. I played rook d2 though, and now Nikolai played h4. Knight e3 was played, and now he takes and plays rook to h5. And here I realized that I'm in deep trouble, because the rook puts a lot of pressure on the h file. My rooks are now disconnected on the first rank, so rook h1 doesn't come with good effect. And he just has very simple threats of just playing queen d7, queen h3, and just mate me. So I was like, I have to hurry up. I have to go rook h1. He takes, I take back, bishop takes e3, rook takes c3, knight g4, and now rook to e2. So I saw this line in my calculations, and when I saw this line in advance, I knew that this is very unpleasant for me, but I was like, I don't see a clear win for Nikolai in this position. Well, maybe I can still grovel a little bit, maybe I can still hold on, and given his time going down, maybe I can strike when my moment comes. Here there was a moment though where I think we both missed something interesting. So Nikolai played e3, which is still a winning move, but it makes it way too difficult. He could have played queen to e5, and against the best move, which is f4, he just simply comes in, and that's completely winning. I suspect that he thought, like me, that I have queen to d5. And now stopping queen h5 and threatening some queen d8 check, it looks like white is doing well, but there's this very nice idea of queen h8. It's just mate. I believe he missed that. I might be wrong. I didn't talk to him after the game, but I think he probably missed that queen can also go to h8. That's what I also missed. And I also thought actually e3 is the best move. So he played e3 and I played f4. I also saw this idea from distance. Now he plays rook to d7. So his idea is to come in with rook d1 check at some point, but now my pieces are pretty bad on b3 and a2, and I was like, I need to really activate these pieces. So I played queen to c4. Now he makes a slight inaccuracy, queen to d8. Still, black is winning, but it's getting more and more difficult, and he's already down to 2 minutes. So I was actually starting to get a little bit optimistic at this point. I was like, okay, he also doesn't see a clear win. Maybe if I can hold on for 2 or 3 more moves, once he gets down to seconds, maybe I can get him with some tactic in time pressure. Especially with this bishop on a2, tactics might arise at some point. Like, of course, he's not going to miss something elementary like this, but at some point he might get stressed and miss something. So what he could have done was to give this check on d1 and play queen d7. Again, like these things are not easy to see because again, like it's not clear what black is trying to do, but his idea is actually to go b5 and then open up this b7 square for the queen to deliver a deadly check. So play can continue like this. I stop the queen from coming to the diagonal, but then he just keeps putting pressure on the e2 rook, and I'm going to lose the game. So he played queen d8, and here I had my chance. I had my chance not to win the game or anything, but to make the game incredibly difficult for him. I should have played bishop to b3. And the idea is that after king g7, I go king to g1. The bishop is guarding the d1 square, so there's no rook d1 check. And if he goes queen to h8, now I go queen to e4. Now I'm ready to meet queen h3 with queen g2. And let's say we can somehow trade queens in this position. I can put this king on f3. All of a sudden, this pawn might start to look a little bit weak. And I can maybe start thinking about equalizing this position. So this is still definitely much better for black. But if I had gone bishop e3 with king g1, I think given the fact that he only has 2 minutes on the clock, it would not have been easy for him to convert this position. But instead, I played a little bit too fast. I saw an idea, and I got a little bit overexcited, and I played a little bit fast. So I was like, what if I move my king all the way to f3 and attack the knight on g4? Because right now, the knight on g4 is very strong. It's defending the e3 pawn, and if I can undermine this knight and win the e3 pawn, then I can even think about winning this game. And if he goes f5 to defend the knight, then this diagonal is going to get weakened. So that was my idea. I played king g2, and after king g7, I played king to f3. Again, this is an inaccuracy, but already I have to play moves like f5, which is kind of desperation. So I played king f3, and the move I missed was that he plays queen h8. And then I was like, oh my god, I can't take the knight. Queen h5 is mate. What did I just do? Like, I just brought my king into a vulnerable position for no reason. I wasted 2 moves. So I just kind of missed this idea of just giving away the knight, and that's mate. It's a very simple idea, but in the heat of the moment, I didn't think about it. I thought he has to go f5, and then after queen e6, I was like, now his pieces are kind of tied down. Queen has to defend g8, the rook has to defend f7, the knight has to defend e3. It's funny that here it's actually still winning for black with this nice idea of b5, which I didn't see at all. The idea is to just open up this diagonal and threaten queen to a8. If I go queen c6, then rook d2 comes, and the king just hides on h6. And black is still winning, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Maybe not so much, because he's just threatening to take in queen d2. And I don't see any defense. Anyways, he played queen h8, and here I realized that I'm going to lose this game. Because there's no stopping queen h5 in this position. I tried rook e1, but after queen h5, I was like, I don't have anything. If I move my king forward, then, okay, that's just a disaster. I don't even need to discuss that. If I move backwards, then queen h2, queen f2 coming. And I tried queen to c8, just last desperate try, but now he finds a very nice mate. Knight h2 check, king goes to e4, queen f3 check, king e5. At least I won the king of the hill game, but after knight g4 is checkmate, and I lose the game in a very nice fashion. So credit to my opponent. He played a very nice game and completely outplayed me. So these are the sorts of games that sometimes I'm not that sad to lose. Like, of course, I was very sad to lose this game because that means I'm not going to be FM today. I'm not going to be FM after this, even the last round, even if I win. So let me actually insert the results real quick. So that was kind of sad to lose this game with the white pieces. I thought that that was a great opportunity that I had to play for the win and try to get closer to my goal. Even a draw would have gotten me much closer to my goal. But credit to my opponent, played a much better game. He completely outplayed me, and there's definitely a lot to learn from this game. Like these structures with 4-2 versus 3-3 are the things that I've been getting a lot in my games, and I'm actually realizing that I need to study this structure much better and understand the ideas behind the ideas that both sides have. I think I need to probably see more games from top players in these structures to realize how white usually plays for the win and how white actually puts pressure. Because in some games, I'm actually really struggling to generate something. Like this game, up until some point, let's say around here, I'm still doing fine, but I was kind of struggling to find ideas for white to like really put him under pressure. Maybe like create my own ideas, my own chances against him. Anyways, so this game finished. I lost the game, and in the last round, I was facing another challenge. I was playing against national master Samuel Zhang. I actually didn't put his title, but he's a national master. And this game also has a very interesting backstory. So Samuel Zhang is a part of the University of Toronto's chess team. And we actually sent a team to Canadian University's Chess Championship this year with 5 players. But we had to put 4 players on the team each time. And Samuel was our board 5, basically, on the team A. And I was coaching the team. So I was the one deciding who to put in the team and who to put out. And the thing with Samuel is that he is a pretty inactive player in Canada. Like, he played the Canadian zonals, and it's interesting that in Canadian zonals, he started with 3 buys. He started with 3 buys, so he started with 0 out of 3, and then he loses the 4th game too. So it's 0 out of 4 in Canadian zonals, and then he wins his next 6 games in a row against very strong players. He gets 6 out of 10. And that's his only tournament in Canada, like in 2 or 3 years. So the first round, I put him in the team as the coach, and he played a 1600 FIDE. And he just got absolutely blown off the board. Like, I was really shocked. Of course, everyone can have pretty bad games, and I was also like not expecting him to lose. But that kind of made me a little bit doubtful about him. I thought maybe he's a little bit out of form. I knew what he's capable of, seeing his performances in the Canadian zonals. But I was like, maybe he's a little bit out of form. Maybe he's not focused. So in the next 3 games, I actually put him out of the team because we had the most crucial games. And I had National Master Feng Shimao on board 4, which was in a sensational form. He also lost a bad game though in that tournament, I have to mention. But I kept putting Feng Shi on board 4 for those 3 crucial battles. And I wanted to put Samuel in for round 5, but his schedule was not working to play in the round 5. So he ended up playing only 1 game, and I felt really bad. But now we face each other. So he's kind of out here to prove a point against me. He wants to show that he's a great player. And I already realized that in this tournament. Like, I was already looking at his results, and he beat 3 pretty strong 2000 rated players. He lost to Nikolai Noritsyn and Mark Plotkin, 2 strong IMs, but everyone else he just completely destroyed. So I was kind of scared. I knew Samuel is a very well prepared player, and we also had a group chat for Canadian University's Chess Championship, and I saw Samuel asking about everyone's opening repertoire every round in there. So I knew he's a person who's going to look up my games and prepare. So, I usually play Carl Khan, and I sometimes play e5 against e4. I knew he's an e4 player, but this time I decided to give him a little bit of a surprise, and I played the Sicilian defense. After 10 years, I came back to the Sicilian defense, and that's actually pretty rare. Like, I haven't played Sicilian in a long, long time, but I looked at his games, I prepared a little bit. I've been also working on Sicilian Najdorf as a weapon to sometimes play. So he plays knight f3. I play d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and now a6, and we get a Najdorf Sicilian, which is the most theoretical opening, in my opinion. One of the most theoretical for sure. And now Samuel plays this move g3. So of course there's a lot of lines here for white. There's bishop g5, there's bishop to e3, there's bishop d3, there's bishop c4, there's g3, h3, h4, f3, f4, a3, a4. Like, all these moves are actually playable, and they pose a challenge. Even queen d3 is a challenging move these days. So like, this kind of creates this challenge for Najdorf players to actually know all of these moves and prove it over the board. But with Samuel, I kind of knew that he's probably going to go g3. And I was like, if he goes something else, he's also not going to be that experienced. We're just going to play a game. I just wanted to get a game. I also saw against the Khan, he plays this classical variation, which is a little bit drawish, and I wanted to win this game. So I wanted a more fighting game actually against him. And it's funny, he actually told me after the game that he prepared something else instead of the classical variation. Maybe if I knew that, I would have gone for Khan and tried to use my experience to outplay him. Anyways, he plays g3. Now I play e5, knight to e2, and now bishop to e7. Samuel plays bishop g2, and now I play b5. So there are a lot of moves here. There's b5, there's knight to d7, and there's castles. But the most accurate move order that I checked before the game is this move b5. Now Samuel plays knight d5, best move by the way. If he doesn't play knight d5, I'm going to go bishop b7. And all of a sudden, I'm going to get a pretty comfortable position with my bishop on b7, knight on c5, and black has no problem. Samuel plays here, I go knight to d7. Now I plays knight e to c3. And I was still in the prep. I knew that the best idea is to take the knight and now play knight to f6 and challenge the new knight on d5. So in this position, there are two ways for white to play. One way, which is a little bit tame, is to take the knight and just get a game of bishops. And one way is to take the bishop. So I was hoping he takes with a bishop because I had this very nice idea prepared to take with a king. It looks a little bit weird, but my idea is that I want to keep my queen on d8. My king on e7 is actually defending the pawn on d6 for a while. And there are a lot of funny lines here. In the end, black artificially will castle at some point, like maybe even like this, queen c7, rook d8, king f8. There are very funny lines here, for instance this, and bishop g5. I have this very nice idea of going h6, takes, king takes f6. So my king is already on f6, looks weird, but it's actually pretty safe. Even though he goes f4 and it looks really scary, I'm simply playing king g6 and putting my king on h7. These are the lines I was looking at before the game, and I was happy to get these sorts of positions on the board just for content. And we would have had a fun game. Instead, Samuel decides to take the knight. I take with a bishop, and now he plays a4. And one thing that was kind of annoying me in this position was that even though I surprised him in the opening, he didn't expect Najdorf by any means. He was still blitzing hard. So I didn't know Samuel that much. And I saw him like asking the group chat about like targeted preparation, like what does my opponent play, what should I do again. Like he wasn't asking what should I do, he was asking like what he plays, and he was preparing some spicy ideas against them. But this game showed me that he has amazing general preparation as well. Even though I never played Najdorf in the last 10 years, he was well prepared against it. So I took the pawn, rook takes here, and now I play a5. So in this position we both have bishops. Things are pretty equal, but white's position is so solid. Like he goes b3 and he doesn't have any weaknesses. If anything, I'm the one with weaknesses on a5 and d6. So if I actually want to keep pieces on the board, I'm going to be the one who's getting pressed. So first of all, the pawn on d6 is a little bit loose. He's going to go bishop a3 and put some pressure. So I played bishop e7 back, castles, and now he goes bishop d2. So all of a sudden, he's threatening to go queen a1 and put pressure on my a4 pawn. And here I was getting a little bit discouraged as well. I was like, oh my god, this guy's still blitzing. He has 92 minutes on the clock. Am I walking into something scary? Am I actually getting a worse position? So at this moment, I was kind of starting to get happy with a draw. I was like, if I can bail out and just get an okay position, I'm going to be happy with it. Because he was blitzing hard. He knew everything. So I played bishop d7, rook to a2, and now I played a4, trying to get rid of this weakness on the a file. Now if he goes b4 and tries to not trade the pawns, I'm actually going to put the bishop on b4 or even c4 afterwards. And the passed a pawn might actually become a little bit dangerous, and I will be able to go d5 as well. So he goes queen to a1. And by the way, he's still blitzing. And he told me after the game that he plays this line many, many times online, and that's why he was familiar with the ideas. He told me he had this position online like 20 times. So that's why he was blitzing and he knew everything. So I decided to kind of bail out. I took on b3, I took the rook, and I played bishop to e6. Now I'm trying to go d5 and get rid of my last weakness on d6. So now Samuel plays queen to b2, and he's kind of stopping d5 with attacking this pawn on e5 and putting his queen behind the passed pawn as well. And here I was starting to think, what should I do? Should I play for the win or should I just bail out for a draw? So one idea that I had to play for the win was to go f5. But after like a 1 or 2 minute think, I realized that this is horrible because if he's going to take, give a check on d5 and then play b4. And in this position, I'm not doing great. My bishop is really bad on e7. His pawn is just coming down the board. Let's say I want to blockade here. He's going to attack it with the bishop on e3. So at this moment, I realized that I'm happy with a draw. I'm not going to risk it. The black pieces against 2100s, it's always a risky spot. So I decided to play d5 and just bail out completely. So Samuel takes on d5. I take on d5 back. He takes on e5 with a queen. Now I trade off the bishops. Take on d2. He's taking on e7. He has an extra pawn, but I have this nice little finish. Queen d5 check. King g1. Queen takes b3. And I offered him a draw. He actually offered me a draw here. But I actually wanted to play out all these moves on the board. So I declined. And I offered him a draw in this position. And draw was agreed. Of course, there's nothing to do for any of the sides. Pretty quick draw to end the tournament. I can't be sad with this result, honestly, because I tested out Najdorf, which is really good. So now my opponents have another thing to prepare for when they want to play e4 against me. And that might kind of discourage them from prepping that much. So that's one thing. And also, I couldn't do much. Honestly, I couldn't do much. Like one thing, if you guys know, if someone is a lifelong Najdorf player and knows any ideas that I could have used in this game to really play for the win, or any sidelines that I could have played against g3, let me know in the comment section down below. But this was a perfect game of chess from both sides. Like we didn't make any major mistakes in the entire game. Like I didn't make a single mistake, not even a single inaccuracy. But I couldn't win the game because I didn't put enough pressure on him to make mistakes. I just bailed out, basically. But anyways, I finished the tournament with 4 out of 6. I finished in the tied 3rd place. And Nikolai Noritsyn and Feng Shimao actually ended up winning the tournament jointly, half a point ahead of me. But I was pretty happy with this tournament. I still gained a lot of rating, and I moved to 2276 FIDE rating at the end of this tournament. I still didn't get my FM title, but I was pretty happy with the progress. I got my 3rd Grandmaster win and a bunch of nice games where I can learn from. And overall, I think it was a pretty enjoyable tournament. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Let me know your comments in the comment section down below about any of these 2 games. And I will see you very, very soon with the recaps of my next tournament, which is going to be an RA tournament in Ottawa. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great one, and see you soon. Goodbye.